Hello and welcome to East FM's High Table with the High Commissioner. Your moderator for this segment, my name is Riya Sharma. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to my esteemed panelists who are present here today, starting with His Excellency Dr. Virander Paul, Indian High Commissioner to Kenya. Mr Gowrishankar, Chief Executive Officer for Bank of India. Mr Ramamurthy, a very well-known name in corporate circles. He's the Group Strategic Consultant for the Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development. Mr. Martin Mwita, Senior Business Journalist for the Star newspaper. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we kickstart the segment, I'd just like to make a very quick remark on Nirmala Sitharaman, who at the helm of the Finance Ministry was presenting the budget in the Indian Parliament. To me, that was such a powerful image and a great example of women leadership. Today, I thought to myself, a woman presented the budget in Parliament. There's a female moderator, but amongst me, I have very powerful, impactful men from a variety of fields who are going to shed insight and give us their thoughts and comments on the recently released Indian budget. So, Your Excellency, Dr. Virander Paul, welcome again. And I'd like to start and open the floor with our first question, which is, how do you describe this budget, sir? And where do you think this will take India?
Thank you, Riya. Thank you for having me. To begin with, what I would like to say is that any budgetary exercise is all about judicious and the best possible use of the finite resources that one has in a given set of conditions and circumstances. And today we are talking about the Union Indian budget, and using this principle, this is precisely what was done and announced earlier this month when we got to know about a series of announcements by the Finance Minister about the Indian Union budget. Very briefly, what I would like to say is that we are passing through a very difficult time.
Yes.
You know, it's the time of the COVID pandemic. We are very mindful and suffering from the pandemic, the disease itself, and also the consequences of the pandemic in terms of the enormous economic dislocation that it has caused. So in a way, it's satisfying that the global economy under these trying times is steadily recovering despite the resurgence of the pandemic. And when we look at India, it is even more satisfying that we are looking at a growth rate of 9.2% for the year 2021. And let me also add that this growth rate of 9.2% is somewhat higher than the pre-pandemic levels. This shows the inherent strength, the strong fundamentals of the Indian economy. And this time around, I would like to say that in a large measure, the credit goes to the large-scale and accelerated COVID vaccination drive that we have had, over the last many months. In terms of the budget itself, it's a huge document covering practically all sectors of life. But I would like to focus on the basic principle that has been employed in formulating this budget. What stands out very clear is that the strong emphasis is on the increased capital spending.
Yes.
And to be more precise, it's about 4.1% of the GDP that the capital spending that we are looking at. In addition, there are other focus approaches of, say, digitization, rural upliftment, planned urbanization, digital innovations, and technological advancement. So this is the broader framework in which we seek to enter this budget cycle. And interestingly, if you go through the budget in more detail, it is not just this financial year. It goes even further, what we call the Amrit Kal, India at 100.
Yes.
So what we have decided and the guiding principles that we have used for formulating this budget, this takes us even further than the current financial year. In addition, there is a strong emphasis on the support that the Indian economy is going to derive from what we call Gati Shakti. This is the Government of India's vision in terms of the grand national master plan for multimodal connectivity. There are certain focus areas which perhaps I might come a little later with more details.
Yes.
But this is how broadly we look at the budget. It has injected a lot of confidence into the Indian economy, and also in terms of the pace and the direction of the economy. I think it's very upbeat, very forward-looking, and we are quite enthused.
Mr. Gowrishankar, just to add to what His Excellency Dr. Virander Paul has said, what is your perspective, particularly from where you're seated at in the corporate world?
Yeah, Honorable High Commissioner, sir, he has given the overview of the budget. As a banker or as a person who is in the industry, we classify this budget in three different segments. One is the investment, the first I. The second one is the infrastructure.
Yes.
And the third one is the innovation. These three are very integral to the various announcements in the union budget. Coming to the investment, as Honorable High Commissioner told, that we are looking at a 25 years horizon. Generally, budget looks at 5 years because the next budget will be presented. But very striking difference in this budget has been the foresightedness and the vision to make India a big economic factor, and already Prime Minister Modi sir has envisaged the 5 trillion economy for the Indian growth. So this investment, which will be catapulting into various opportunities so far as economic growth, so far as employment is concerned, so goes a long way. And the outlay in the investment has been huge, very thoughtful so far as we are concerned. And the infrastructure, we are now growing far ahead of other developing countries in so far as improving the infrastructure in India is concerned. For example, the construction of roads, which was almost around 13 kilometers a day, now we are planning to make it 100 kilometers per day. And infrastructure is very basic for an economic growth in terms of movement of goods very seamlessly from one point to another point, reducing the cost involved in the logistics. One of the major component of any pricing is the logistics or cost of transportation. If that is taken care, and the way the union government is contemplating for not only improving the infrastructure but also joining them to have a seamless transfer not only of the goods but also of the infrastructure, is a striking factor and which will enable a long-term growth perspective for the country. The third one is the innovation. India is known for its innovative ideas. You talk about startups. Now India has the most number of startups and which have turned unicorn during the last financial year. This is all because of the openness which has come into the society and the support which the government of India is giving to the young entrepreneurs. So this innovation will definitely lead to a much bigger economic revolution in the country, resulting into economic growth and also employment opportunities for the huge workforce which India is known for. I would like to reiterate that as of now, India has the biggest employable persons age-wise in India, and which will definitely help us to grow further and to realize the dream of the 5 trillion economy which Prime Minister Modi sir is contemplating. That is from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So you're definitely highlighting the 3 I's and foresightedness of this budget, which was never, sort of, I'd say, done before with the way His Excellency had also mentioned. Mr. Ramamurthy, sir, what would you like to add in addition to that when it comes to the budget? How do you, from your point view this budget?
Despite the financial aspect of the budget, what is the underlying principles on which the budget is made? One is ease of doing business. Second one is ease of living. Besides looking at the long-term infrastructure projects which is capital investment, you can make an investment, you can do whatever you want to do, how it is going to impact the life of the people who are doing business and who are living in the country, and also who are dealing with the other countries in the neighborhoods.
Yes.
What are the challenges people are facing in terms of ease of doing business, how that is going to be benefited by this budget here. It is very clearly addressed. Trust-based governance. This is something very important. That is what the philosophy, that is what the Prime Minister is standing for as an ideal. And today that is reflected here. So the vision is also reflected in the budget. So what is the vision, a long-term vision the country has? Whether that can be implemented on the ground, that is what is proved in the budget to see that this is what we are going to do in the next 5 years. Integration of center and state-based system on online portals. This is something very critical for everybody because people are using a lot of papers in those days, and today everything is online.
Yes.
That is exactly what they are bringing it here. And you know, India is known for the IT. It's an IT hub as well.
Yes.
Ease of living, how do you address that one? Issuance of chip embedded passports, which is going to come in vogue now,
Yes.
very quickly. And centers of excellence in urban planning. That is something very important because he is going into the villages as well. Not only the urban, but also they are going to the villages. Modernization of all the building bylaws. These are all the things which are problematic issues which are being addressed in this. One is long term, and also what people see, because every budget that comes in, everybody is looking for something in the budget. What is it in for me? That is what people look for it here.
Yes.
And this budget is very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And they have addressed all the issues of the current and also the long-term thing. That is what they have done here. So main thing, what they have addressed in this budget today, if you look at it beside this, they are bringing some agri-value addition. You see, people are exporting, even today, you take Africa today, they are exporting the grains. India doesn't want to do that. India wants to do some value addition. Value addition is the only way that you can move forward with in terms of economic growth. Economic growth shows the resilience of a country.
Yes.
Despite the pandemic situation and everything, all the efforts that government has put in, they focused on economic growth, they never went down. Very interesting information which I got it recently to see that the production linked incentive, they are going to give production linked incentive for 17 more sectors to improve manufacturing capabilities in India. States are given 1 lakh crore 50-year interest-free loan.
Wow.
And to build infrastructure with the investments. They can bring in even on a PPP model. That is what they are talking about. 65% of defense investment should be local purchase. They are building capacity locally, and they can also do the exports tomorrow. These are all very interesting things which we never thought of in the last 2 decades.
Yes.
And this budget has reflected all those things, and which is going to be beneficial for the country, and it will be beneficial for the neighboring countries as well as they get close to that, how to understand this and start working with them.
Thank you. So with a grandiose vision in place and the right measures that would help them achieve this, it just sort of brings me back to my next question, which is, Your Excellency, how do you foresee that this budget will encourage, do you think it will encourage Indian investors to then come to Kenya? How does the Kenyan angle come into this? How do we fit into the puzzle?
You know, the one-word answer is yes, and a big yes. But before I come to this specific point, allow me to very briefly add to what my friend Mr. Rao mentioned. I think the 3 I's that you mentioned, I think is a very clever way of summarizing the entire emphasis that we have used in the budget. I'll come back to one of the points that I mentioned about the radically enhanced capital spending, largely focusing on infrastructure. Now, I mentioned about Gati Shakti project. Now, Gati is speed and Shakti is power. So it's all about the power of speed. And the focus here is, to build large-scale multimodal connectivity by employing the resources and also generating new resources in terms of using the railroads and the highways, the ports, and the rest of it. Some of the commentators have been describing this budget as a booster budget, and it's not without a reason. We are in the midst of a pandemic and we are talking about vaccinations, so it's quite normal to use the vaccination jargon. So, but it's true, it is indeed a booster budget. It is going to really give a boost to the rapid socio-economic development of the country. Now, this Gati Shakti project, it is something that is going to, in a big way, transform the logistics space in the country. And logistics in the country is something which the foreign investors and the potential foreign investors have been looking at India, hoping for better and better logistical systems in the country. I think now it's a matter of time that what we seek to do will come into being, and our external engagement in terms of enormous, both in terms of value and numbers, foreign partnerships is going to decidedly increase. Now, coming to your point of India-Kenya investors, Indian investors coming here, or even Kenyan investors going to India in certain specific sectors. Now, this budget, as described by Mr. Rao and also Mr. Ramamurthy, it's quite ambitious, and it's quite realistically ambitious, and it aims not only for a very specific socio-economic development of the country,
Yes.
In a very real way, but also in the process is going to, in a large measure, going to increase the attractiveness of India as a destination for foreign investment for understandable reasons. Look at the areas that have been covered. So India is definitely going to be very attractive in terms of investments, but India and Kenya, this is a relationship, especially in terms of our economic engagement. There are certain specifics about this relationship.
Yes.
And I am very confident that these specifics are going to benefit. Now, what are these specifics? Now, we have a very traditionally strong relationship in both trade and investments, and the areas that are covered, very broadly I'll mention, the areas are, manufacturing, agriculture, housing and infrastructure, ICT, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, agriculture, even banking and insurance and real estate. These are the specific areas which have been traditionally very relevant in our bilateral relationship. Now, if you go into the specifics of the budget, the sectoral coverage of the budget in these areas, I think there are reasons for us to believe and for us to be happy about that in the times to come. I think more and more Indian investors will be able to really fulfill their willingness to invest in Kenya, and it's not just a one-way street. And in the times to come, I'm quite hopeful that the next budget, even of Kenya, is going to be as attractive as the Indian budget is, making Kenya as an attractive, more attractive destination for Indian investments. So I think it's going to be a win-win situation, and in the times to come, I am realistically optimistic that things are going to be better and better.
Thank you. I think we should come up with the Kiswahili equivalent for Gati Shakti. Very inspirational term indeed. Would you like to add to that,
Yeah.
Mr. Gowrishankar?
Coming to India and Kenya, as High Commissioners are told, we share very strong bond emotionally and also financially.
Yes.
The Indo-Kenyan trade is worth around $2.3 billion as per the latest statistics, and which is growing at a faster rate. And as of now, India is, I think it's around second biggest investor in Kenya,
Yes.
so far as the investment from India is concerned. And you can see multiple fields, like as High Commissioner has told, it is about pharmaceuticals, it is about finance. And in this budget, as Mr. Ramamurthy has told, the focus has been ease of doing business. And in our Prime Minister's term, they say minimum government, maximum governance. You should govern, but the government involvement should be the minimum. You might have seen how things are privatized or maybe given to a better managing agency. The classical example has been the disinvestment in Air India. Now it has gone to Tata's, and you can see the result in future.
Yes.
So with this sort of a government which is always motivating and encouraging investors, not only domestic but also foreign. So it opens the gates for investors from outside to go to India,
Yes.
because India has gone up in the index so far as ease of doing business is concerned. And coming to Kenya is always an attractive field for Indians. And even from the field which I am working in, there are many people who are wanting to come here, set up hospitals. I have a project on my hand where people from India are trying to establish a multi-speciality hospital.
Wow.
So that brings investment here, which not only helps the Indians to come closer to Kenya, it will help Kenyans to have access to better health management system. And so far as manufacturing also concerned, we know we have Tata here, we have so many other companies, and I hope it will increase and improve in days to come.
Thank you.
Could I briefly add to what Mr. Rao said? He
Certainly.
talked about investments. Now, the figure that we use, and it's a figure that we have obtained recently, it's 3.53 billion US dollars is the cumulative quantum of Indian investments in Kenya in diverse sectors. Now, I wanted to add that one of the pillars of India's cooperation with Kenya is capacity building, and it has been our endeavor to align our activities, to align our efforts with the Big Four agenda of President Kenyatta, which is manufacturing, food security, affordable housing,
Yes.
and food security. Now, with the incoming welcome changes in India in these sectors, not only we are going to align our capacity building and development assistance initiatives in these four areas, I would expect our private industry engaged in these four areas to come forward and invest in these focus areas in Kenya. And it is also my expectation that there will be attractive offers in the Kenyan market for these for the Indian players to come in, and new conditions be created for Indian investors to be more forthcoming in these areas.
Thank you. I'd like to go to my friend Mr. Martin just before I finish off with. I'd like to just possibly ask Mr. Ramamurthy to just add to what His Excellency Dr. Virander Paul has said on that front regarding the investments, and then I'll go to Martin, and he could explore this topic further. But what do you have to say, sir?
You see, I'm looking at it from the East African perspective. So when I do the business in East Africa, what are the challenges I have? How India can come and assist in these areas?
Yes.
How this budget cover the challenges? Point one is, this country depends on, this is a container-based economy. This depends on a lot of raw materials being imported in this country because they have not done the value addition to all the raw materials available in this country, whatever that is grown in this country, which is a lesson that every country has to learn. And India is going to lead that pack first. And when I manage the business in East Africa, I bring in a lot of raw materials from China and India and other places. I've shifted more than 80% of my imports from India today from China because we had a lot of logistic issues and price issues during the pandemic in China.
Yes.
That was a great opportunity for people to go to India to bring it up here. But could India cope up with all the demand, whatever that East Africa, at least East Africa had? They were not ready at that time. I mentioned to His Excellency a couple of times the challenges what I am facing, and so that at least you could pick up that information and send it across. But that was addressed in the budget.
Yes.
That was addressed in the budget to look at what is the raw material which is brought from China to India to do the value addition to supply to Africa, and there is a double pricing. One, if they increase the price of raw material in China, India will also increase the prices. If India goes for backward integration, then probably the prices will be competitive, and they will become more competitive than China in future. And this is exactly what I was looking for, that has been addressed in this budget. And the second interesting thing is logistics.
Yes.
You know, the containers were not available, the ships were not available, space in the ships were not available, a lot of infrastructure issues which were addressed. $1,800 from Mumbai to Mombasa went up to $5,400.
Yes.
The logistic cost went up. Eventually, it impacts the consumer when they come to buy anything, whether it is a pharma product or a FMCG. At the end of the day, they are the people who are affected. That is addressed in the budget in terms of making the infrastructure economical. Inside the country, internally, we have to address this issue. That is what they are doing. This is going to definitely impact the importation also tomorrow. That is what is going to happen, because they will be able to connect all the factories and everything and make it very economical for us to get the products into this country at an affordable price here. Very interesting information what I saw is organic farming.
Yes.
India this time in the budget, for the first time they have talked about organic farming, and they are giving all incentives, and they are bringing even finances to support the startups and everything for organic farming. That is again, that is leading the pack in this region here. That is very interesting information. Post-harvest value addition. I think everybody has to look at the value addition to anything which is harvested in this country. Today, instead of sending the green tea and add value, and you can see so many spices, flavors, and so many things which are coming in, as Sri Lanka does it here, I think India can do many things here. And digital services to farmers is very interesting, which was not existing earlier. They are brought in now, so that all the farmers will be digitized. They get all possible information and everything. This is something phenomenal. That is what is going to happen. And Kisan drones to manage their own fields, and they are going to bring all the drones and everything, and they are supporting with the finances also, blended finance, to support all those things. Besides all those things, very interesting thing which came up for me to look at here is,
Yes.
you see, there is a special thrust given specifically to the pharma industries, agriculture industries, and irrigation facilities. All the three are addressed in this budget here. Besides providing the basic water, provision of water,
Yeah.
providing the healthcare to the people, a road network to the people, telephone facilities to the people, digitizing all those things, and even the postal services. The post bank is also coming in, that is fully digitized. You don't need to, the post office is also a bank today. That is what they have brought in. Something phenomenal.
Yes.
They have brought in this budget to make sure how life will become easier for people to get the services from the government here. That is what Mr. Rao very clearly said here. And minimum government and probably the better governance. That is what he talked about. That is what they are addressing. I think His Excellency covered almost all the points in terms of the vision.
Yes.
Vision of the country led by the Prime Minister, and that is very much reflected into this budget here. I think all of us are stand to benefit. It all depends on how much we understand, how much we are able to get into, and connect with the people in India. Kenya can definitely benefit from this. The business people can go to India to look at how things are changing as compared to what they were experiencing last year. Every year things will start changing here.
Yes.
Not only in terms of price, in terms of doing the business with them, the trust with which they will be able to do it, and the clarity in terms of banking system and everything,
Yes.
and any finance that you require. Exim Bank has got $250 million available here, and not many people have utilized. I was researching with His Excellency that day. He said that it is available TRM, but people are not coming and taking. And people have to come forward and take this facility which is available here, which is at very affordable interest rates. And people should take the Exim Bank facility and start moving. I think there is a lot of opportunities. It all depends on how do you digest and assimilate the whole thing and try to connect the right people and start moving in.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'd just like to go to my friend Martin. And Martin, do you have any questions regarding whatever His Excellency Mr. Rao and Mr. Ramamurthy have shared?
Not really a question, but an observation. From where Kenya stands right now, India is the biggest trading partner, second biggest trading partner after China.
Yes.
And last year we saw the value of Kenyan international trade dropping to about 2.2 trillion. And on the contrary, while the likes of China were dropping, trade between Kenya and India increased by 5.4%,
Yes.
with a value of around 188 billion in
Yes.
terms of the value. So can you as India implements this budget, Kenya will be from an angle of how does it impact on the foreign trade policies, and maybe what opportunities does it come with? Because we have had conversations before, noting that India is a global leading medical tourist destination. There has been conversation about supporting Kenya coming up with cancer centers, major facilities, and maybe what opportunities does India offer to Kenyan exports? Are we likely to see any trade agreements coming up in between the financial year? Are we likely to see opportunities for SMEs? Kenya is building a robust SMEs platform and trying to empower them to embrace the international standards. So Kenya will be looking at what opportunities is India offering going forward, while at the same time the government has been having a conversation on making Kenya an attractive FDI destination, that is the foreign direct investments. So that is something that will be interesting to look going forward.
Martin, before going to His Excellency on the trade agreements, you will be able to reflect on. I have very interesting questions that you have brought in. What I would like to tell you, you've got a lot of export processing zone units in Kenya today. You look at the effectiveness of all those things other than what you have with the AGOA scheme. And you have to bring about a scheme with India also, something similar to that, on agri-value addition. That is what you can do from this country. What do you have here? You've got a lot of agriculture products here. How to add the value to this thing, and then you can start exporting. There are private sector, exclusively they are managing all the exports in this country today. But how do you expand that arena to make sure that a lot of exports go to many countries, and how do you formalize it? And what are the scopes available? I think there is a study which has to be done, and then you have to bring about, because money is available, partner is available. India will buy many things if you add value. I'll give a small example. I am involved in that pyrethrum. Pyrethrum used to be a #1 crop in this country, but today that is completely exited the market here. If you can bring in pyrethrum today, you can extract the pyrethrum, and then Indian market is just waiting, because such a huge market of 1.2 billion people, and they are looking for insecticide to come. But where do they go and get it from? It's coming from China. Two, you take stevia. Stevia is another agri product here, and China has taken 200 hectares in Burundi and producing the leaves, drying and taking it to China, adding value and exporting to all the other countries here. Why can't Kenya do it? And India is a big buyer. And you take Pepsi, you take Coca-Cola, everybody wants tons and tons of sugar substitute. And you can go, when we are talking about organic farming, why can't you look at simple value addition to these kind of products here? And we got the products here. Only thing is we need to do the value addition. India is ready. Right. I can get customers from India to come and buy from you. They are ready to buy here. And why are you selling only the maize and throwing it here in the gutter? I could see in pineapples and bananas are thrown in the gutter in Uganda. What is the value addition that you can do? You can do a lot of value addition. I go to Arua in Uganda, and so much of honey is available here. There is no export. There is somebody who has to put up an industry and start doing the export here. When I see all these things, what happens to me? I feel that we are sleeping. This is what is very important here. Look at the country which is looking for 5 years ahead. And we have something in our hand and we are not doing it here. I used to explain all these things whenever I met with His Excellency in his house. I always tell him that this is what is bothering me here. Very fantastic question you brought. This is what I want to tell you. There is a lot that you can do. There is no problem. You know Bixa. Bixa is grown in Mombasa. It is grown everywhere like a bush. What is Bixa? You know that? It is a natural food color. You make all the chicken and everything and you put the color. Why do you put the synthetic material? This is a natural organic material grown in Mombasa. Plenty. Bring in tons and tons and convert that, extract it and send that color beautiful so that it is good for health. You can do that here. There is so many things. I can keep on talking for half an hour. There are so many things that you can do from Kenya here.
So I see Mr. Ramamurthy, of course, feels very passionately around the opportunities that have not yet been tapped and looked into. But let's talk about what is working for between Kenya and India, of course, and which of course leads me to my last question as well, and just an add-on to what my friend Martin here said. Your Excellency, you're of course very much ahead of the game. You're very much aware of whatever is in motion, the wheels in motion, regarding also the bilateral trade relationship between India and Kenya, and what is in the pipeline for both the economies and how they can support each other. So what would you like to, firstly I'd request you to please address Martin's question regarding what is in the pipeline, and then maybe you could follow that up with, you know, how do you see the bilateral trade relationship really strengthening?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Martin for, thank you really for saying what you said about the India-Kenya trade. It's about 2.6 billion, if I remember correctly, the latest figure. And you mentioned that other trading partners of Kenya couldn't really perform that well, not as well as India did. There are reasons for that. And the main reason is that while the supply chains were being disrupted, grossly disrupted during the peak of the COVID pandemic, India could manage to keep the supply chains open. And this holds true with Kenya because there is no other explanation why we could maintain, not just maintain, we could enhance the bilateral trade. We could do this also in the backdrop of tremendous mutual comfort and mutual confidence that we have between the business and industry communities of two countries. Before I come to what could be done more to further enhance our economic engagement, I would like to touch upon a couple of points which Mr. Ramamurthy mentioned. He talked about digitization. Now, digitization happens to be a major, one of the most striking highlights of the budget.
Yes.
Now, a friend of mine, he mentioned in one of our conversations like this that the words Digital India have been mentioned 36 times in the entire document. It's quite a bit, but for a reason. It's quite impressive. Digital ecosystem in practically all majors, human endeavors has been, a thrust area in this budget, whether it's digital health, digital education, digital banking, and digitization in a wide variety of services. Another thing which is extremely striking is the government's support to the so-called sunrise sector. The sunrise sector is, it is something that covers artificial intelligence, robotics, genomics, space economy, semiconductors, drones you mentioned.
Yes.
Now, the greater employment of these new technologies, the sunrise sector in the Indian economy, this is, on this scale, this is something which has been done for the first time. And we look upon this particular initiative as a big input into what India is going to be in the times to come.
Yes.
Energy transition and climate action. Mr. Ramamurthy did touch upon obliquely about, for instance, PLI schemes, production-linked incentive schemes in manufacturing of solar panels. Now, this is an input into energy transition, green energy and climate action. The emphasis on electric vehicles, including in the public sector, in public transport. This is another, an upcoming area, not only in India, but opening avenues for collaboration with, other friendly countries who are willing to work with India in these sectors. Healthcare and life sciences. to have greater use of digital technologies to make health services available, accessible, and affordability of these health services to one and all. Coming back to the India-Kenya context, in the coming weeks we hope to have our minister level joint trade committee meeting. It was scheduled to be held a couple of weeks ago, but we had parliament in session, and for some reason, the mutual time could not be agreed upon. But we are hoping that in the coming weeks we will have that. The two ministers are going to talk about on what could be done at the G2D level, and also to stimulate the necessary interest in the private business circles.
Yes.
And in this context, I would like to mention that the revived collaboration between India's FICCI, Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and the Kenyan counterpart, KNCCI, we are going to have a revived dialogue, B2B dialogues. In addition to this G2G and B2B, we are also looking forward to having a very close and substantive P2P dialogue, people to people dialogue, because this is the forum where we get new ideas as to what's happening back in India and how that goodness can be brought here and employed here to build India-Kenya relations to even higher levels. So broadly, this is what I thought I should say.
Thank you very much. I would say that from each one of you, from the three eyes to, just forwarding to exactly the wheels in motion, which was highlighted by His Excellency Dr. Virander Paul, to the unexplored opportunities yet mentioned by Mr. Ramamurthy, to the great observation by Mr. Martin. Key highlights of the recently released Indian budget is what we focused on today on East FM's High Table with the High Commissioner. So thank you very much to each one of you for your time, for availing yourselves to come into the studio. We really appreciate it. And just before we sign off, I'd just like you to maybe just take 1 minute to just share what your experience of today was when it came to highlighting this. And is there any particular key message that you'd like to give the audience today? We can start with you, Your Excellency.
Very briefly, what I would like to say is that today the discussion on the Indian budget was not just discussion on the contents of the budget. It was an occasion to also think about how we can maximize the use of the underlying relationship of friendship and mutual confidence and trust between India and Kenya. And these kind of conversations, I think we need more, including through the media, by not just talking with the business and industry experts, but with the larger section of the Kenyan population who believe in the goodness and who believe in a bright future of relations between India and Kenya.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gowrishankar?
Yeah, it has been a very interesting discussion with His Excellency throwing light on the budget, Ramamurthy sir on the trade and industry side, and Martin adding flavor to the whole discussion by bringing the very pertinent point that what is there to me in the budget. Generally, any budget, all of us think, as Ramamurthy sir told, that what is there for me in the budget. So this budget has everything for everybody, not only me, including a foreign trade partners, and how to extract that benefit from the budget depends on understanding, and I think talks like this will definitely go a long way. Although it is an Indian budget, but it has relevance to its trade partners as well in different segments. So key points like what you brought in, if they are brought in a different flora, then definitely all will try to get benefit, and it will be very beneficial for a discussion like this, and wonderfully managed by you. Thank you, Richa.
Thank you very much.
See, the growth of the economy is reflected in the resilience of the country, and this applies to all countries put together. And India is showing that kind of resilience, and not only during normal times but also during the COVID times.
Yes.
If India has not supported Kenya and other African countries in the absence of China during the pandemic, and many industries would not have done what they have done so far.
They would have
sustained.
collapsed, yes.
And more employment loss would have happened.
Yes.
And a lot of things, India came and helped. And the advent of this, the vaccine in India, the homemade vaccine, not only helped the Indian, I think, the continent itself. Everybody was helped because India donated to other countries to start off with and everything. But you could see they kept a record of 93% of first dose and almost about 73% of the second dose. Now they are looking at boosters. Where can you imagine in a democratic world, in this world, a democratic country like India with 1.2 billion population, achieving this without the vision? And without not only the vision that India has, it has got the execution capabilities. That is what India, that people should look at India today. But one important point I would like to keep it as put it as a parting note here is, there is a plan called EHAT, E-H-A-T, in 1970 in China. And that helped China to become the hub, world hub today. And even though it is 50 years later, India has done it today, and India will become the hub going forward for entire world. And so that India is going to be a big competitor, and it will become something very dependable and competitive and approachable, and a destination for the entire world, including Africa.
Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to add to that, Martin?
I think this is a great platform, and there is need for continued discussions around strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries and even other trading partners. So the more these discussions are being held, the more talks, the more conversation around business, trade and investment, I think it's going to have a much bigger impact between the two countries and create job opportunities and grow industrialization. So what I will say is that just a continued conversation around the bilateral relations.
Thank you very much. And we conclude East FM's High Table with the High Commissioner. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being here. We look forward to seeing you next time you're moderator for this event. My name is Riya Sharma. Thank you very much.